It's DEW Time with Pastor Steph.
Good morning, and good morning. Rise and shine. You're on with this DEW Time with Pastor Steph. How are you this morning? That's what I like to hear. For this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So, where were you yesterday? Yesterday was Let's Talk About It Tuesday Church Folk Day, and we got to talking about the prom out in Memphis, with the pre-prom photo shoot that the children were so excited about gathering in the park to take their pictures. Over 100 students were gathered together to take photos before the big graduation prom. And lo and behold, as we like to get it done, there was melee, there was gunfire. 4 students walked away injured, and 1 student was fatally struck and unfortunately passed away at the scene of the photo shoot. Now, unfortunately, they did do the prom, but the prom was cut short. The following Monday, the school was closed in honor of all of the individuals that were injured, as well as the one student that lost her life. And we started, we really started to talk about how fun it's just not fun anymore. Not too long ago, we spoke about the water balloon fight that was supposed to take place, that somehow ended in one child not only being bullied, but again, he met his death with a bullet. And, unfortunately, this seems to be the trend for our young people. We cannot get together without having some level of unhappiness and fatality. When we were growing up, fun was really fun. Things were put together so well, and everybody just went out to have fun, and that was the focus. But unfortunately, that's not the thing these days to do. Well, also, we talked about the mom who had a pregnancy that was difficult and would result in, she was warned, after testing, would result in the child possibly having some disability or abnormality. And sure enough, the child came out well, but did have one small abnormality, and that was that he did not grow to the normal rate of all the other students. He's being bullied, and mom says that she could have terminated the pregnancy at 24 weeks, but opted not to. And by the grace of God, again, he had a small abnormality, but she's afraid that if he should come home one day saying he wished he was never born, that she would just die a 1,000 deaths. And we talked about that level of unforgiveness. We talk about forgiving others so that God can forgive us. Well, that other is us as well. We cannot walk around with guilt, over things that we have no control over. She had no control over this particular issue. And, help your child function so much better, so much easier by getting the strength of God. You know what I'm saying? We're always talking about what can God do to change our life. Well, not only you taking God, as the head of your life, but now when your child comes to you with some level of unhappiness, especially about something like that, you can definitely just give him to God. Show him God. Remind him that he is fearfully and wonderfully made. So we have a lot to learn when it comes to how we parent, why we need to choose God, because we're not only choosing God for our life, we're choosing God for our children's lives as well. So this is how we spent our Tuesday, and the conversation was much more than that. So I hope that you go back and you listen or you watch. Either way, you will be blessed. Today is Wow Wednesday, and we're about to get this party started with our girlfriend Vivian and her socially conscious segment. So while she's waiting in the wings, go ahead and get that healthy breakfast. Go ahead and tell somebody, anybody, everybody that it's due time with Pastor Steph is on. And whatever you do, don't go anywhere, because we will be right back.
A test, you don't have a testimony. Look at everybody in the Bible, and I'm gonna leave you alone. Look at everybody who was tested, all the greats. Abraham, God told him to go, and he took his own son. You got to trust God to that point. It wasn't until the end where God said, Abraham, Abraham. He looked behind him and he was like, I have your sacrifice, not your son. I just wanted to see if you was going to trust me. I just wanted to see if you was going to trust me or give up on me or curse me. Or Job, that's my favorite book in the Bible. I named my daughter Keziah because his daughter was named Keziah. Job was tested how many times? And he never gave up on God. I lost everything twice, but I never gave up on God. Because I knew he had me. I just had to, it was necessary. It's necessary. So don't you give up your faith.
Faith the size of a mustard seed.
The faith the size of a mustard seed, young lady.
Even a half a mustard seed.
Come on, baby. Don't you give up your faith.
Good morning, and good morning again. Welcome back to It's Due Time with Pastor Steph, and it is Wow Wednesday, and just a wonderful reminder. It looks like Fantasia, sounds like Fantasia, is reminding us about food. All righty. Well, our girlfriend Vivian is waiting in the wings to give us her socially conscious segment. So let's say good morning to Viv. Hey, Viv.
Good morning. Happy Wow Wednesday. How are you, Pastor Steph?
I am well, thank you, Vivian. How are you?
I'm doing well on this rainy Wednesday.
Is it raining outside?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, thank God you're on the inside, girl. So, what you got for us today?
All right. Today on Socially Conscious, we are starting off in the schools again, as New York City is facing a lot of questions and backlash over its public school spending. A new report says the city is prepping to spend a record $43 billion on public schools, which breaks down to about $44,000 per student. That's a lot of money. The debate is happening because student enrollment has dropped by nearly 158,000 students over the last decade. But school spending has continued to rise. Critics say too many schools are now half empty, while taxpayers are paying more than ever before. The report also points out to low test scores and ongoing struggles in reading and math as part of the concern. Some people blame rising costs like transportation, school building maintenance, special education services, and smaller class size mandates. Others argue that money is still necessary despite the enrollment drop because New York City has a large number of high-need students who require extra support and resources. So now the bigger question being asked is, if there are fewer students in the system, should the city start closing and or combining schools, or should it continue investing heavily with this record-breaking amount of money being invested into the schools in order to improve education outcomes? So of course, we want to hear from you. What say you? Is this too much money to be putting into the public schools, even though enrollment is dropping, or should they continue to invest despite the drop in enrollment and just keep on pouring in the money in hopes that it will help bring up these test scores and other concerns? And next, we have hundreds of thousands of Long Island commuters are on the edge of a possible Long Island Railroad strike that could begin as early as this Saturday. The dispute is between the MTA and union representing more than 3,500 Long Island Railroad workers. The main issue is, of course, money. Workers are demanding a 5% raise because of the rising cost of living, while the MTA says it cannot afford that without increasing fares or cutting services. If a strike happens, the Long Island Railroad service would completely shut down, affecting more than 300,000 daily riders. The MTA says it plans to offer limited shuttle bus services from some Long Island stations to subway lines in Queens if the strike happens, but officials are warning commuters now that the backup plan will not fully replace train service. Riders are already frustrated, saying commuting costs are high enough, and many workers are being forced back into offices full time in order to support their living. Negotiations are expected to continue throughout the week, and both sides say they hope to avoid a strike. But if it's anything like the nurses and the bus drivers, good luck. Next, we have Mayor Mamdani in the news, this time for some good news. They're saying New Yorkers will not see a property tax increase in the city's new budget. Earlier this year, the mayor warned that property taxes could go up nearly 10% as a last resort to help close a multi-billion-dollar budget gap. But now, city officials say that the plan is officially off the table after New York State agreed to provide billions in additional funding to help balance the budget. The city's new executive budget is expected to be around $124 billion instead of raising taxes on homeowners. The administration says it will rely on more state support. So the state has come through, and you guys will no longer have to fear property taxes going up. So good news for you all. And now we have our wow story of the week. Parents out in Texas say they picked up their 3-year-old son from daycare, and they later discovered that he has serious injuries all over his face, including a hole in his lip where his teeth allegedly went through it. And I don't know if this is being dramatized for the story. I tried to look into how they picked this little boy up from school and didn't notice these injuries until later on. That's a wild story in and of itself, but they went ahead and filed a lawsuit. They went through the surveillance video, which showed daycare workers, plural, roughly handling multiple children, including shoving their little boy into a chair and leaving him crying with his injuries. But the wild part of it all is, even though the lawsuit claimed the daycare owners knew about what was happening. It's a husband and wife team who owned this daycare. They say allegedly they saw multiple videos showing workers roughly handling several children before this little boy's video came up and showed his injuries. They say parents even realized what happened because in one occasion, a parent actually witnessed a daycare worker roughly handling a child. That's what started the videos being watched. The lawsuit says instead of immediately firing the workers and reporting the situation, that the owners decided to give a warning to the employees and allowed them to keep working with the children. Reports say there were at least 15 videos showing children allegedly being shoved, yanked, hit, or handled aggressively in the classrooms. One employee eventually contacted Child Protective Services herself after finding out what was witnessed in the videos, and seeing that they did not do anything about it, she decided to go and make this call herself, which led to a larger investigation. So the workers were later fired, but many parents are asking why actions were not taken sooner. So here you have this little boy going home with a hole in his lip, and nothing was being done until this ex-employee decided to speak up. But this has been Vivian with Socially Conscious, giving you the news that we are following. And remember, if you have any wild stories that you would like to submit, please feel free to direct message me on Facebook. My username there is Vivian BM. And come back every Wednesday to find out if your story has been chosen. Thank you, as always, to our loyal viewers and listeners. And thank you, Pastor Steph.
Thank you, Vivian, for your contribution to today's episode. And we thank you so much, and we pray you have a blessed day.
Thank you, you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, on Wednesday, we actually do things backwards. So now, before we go any further, let's say good morning to all of our due time viewers that are in the room. Now, make sure if you're in the room, you let Pastor Steph know by giving me a hearty shout out so that I can say howdy back to you. Let's say good morning to King Terrence. Good morning, Your Highness. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you so much. And please tell Mom we said good morning. Let's say good morning to our girl, Ketty. Good morning, Ketty. Thank you so much for joining us today. We got a check-in from Serge. Hey, Serge, where you been all week, brother? Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us today. We got a check-in from our lady Tamika. Good morning. And we look forward to talking to her in a couple of seconds. And we must say good morning to the ladies that hold it down each and every morning. If it weren't for them, there would be no us. Let's say good morning to our girl Shantice. Good morning. Hopefully we'll get a chance to speak to Shantice in a moment as well. And we must say good morning to our girl Anika. Good morning. Thank you so much for all that you do. And Miss Grace, if you're in the room, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope that you're doing well today. Yes, Ketty, it was a very good PSA from Fantasia. Thank you so much. All right, ladies, let's get to chatting. What are we talking about today? All right, well, New York City is facing a lot of questions and backlash after $43 billion is being spent in the New York City public school system. Now, that equates to $44,000 per student. However, there's been a student drop rate of 158,000 students over the past time, but curiously, spending has risen. They are really questioning things because there have been low test scores. Reading and math scores are low. Transportation maintenance and smaller classes and special ed is what they are, associating this with. And they're saying students need more care. Now, the question on the table from Vivian is, should they continue to invest into the New York City school system, with all of these imperfections? Or should they start backing up that spending? Let's say good morning to our lady Tamika. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Wow Wednesday to you. How are you?
Thank you. Same to you. I am well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good. And let's say good morning to our girl Shantice.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you, ladies?
Good. I'm well, thank you. Well, all right. So, Lady Tamika, what are we talking about? Should New York City continue to spend money the way they've been spending money? $43 billion they're putting into the school system, but ultimately, is it worth it?
The sad part about it is, what happens with parents is the same thing that happens with children. We've been talking about, people leaving the state and, not having as many tourists and things like that. All of those affect our resources. And you're stating that the grading is, the grades are poor. Reading and math, which is essential. How do we function without reading and math? In our everyday events, those are the two things that we utilize. Let's find out how to assist our students better. We got a child who has difficulty even getting to school, trying to, mom can't take them by train. And, we have issues with buses, bus drivers, and, the bus maids. Find out what works. Get to the heart of the situation. You know where the problem is. Now put the resources there. The sad part that, I'm seeing now is even like a school where Al works. He literally has a school that is two schools in one. You got the younger ones on one side of the school. You have the older ones on the other side of the school. Of course, I wouldn't want to see a school close, but if, we have so many students leaving and not having class, why would you have a school open with, just a handful of students? My own personal school, my youth school has closed, and it's been closed for some time. If you've got to do that, then, unfortunately, you've got to do that.
Okay. Shantice, what say you? Are we shortening the schools, closing the schools? What do we do to make sense of the spending, or does it make sense?
It makes zero sense. we were actually having a really intense conversation in our prayer group last night in regards to the schools, the curriculum, everything, the teaching methods, the parents. And the first thing that comes to mind when I hear this is, so where's the money going?
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't have enough proper after school programs, extracurricular activities during school. Again, you have so many of us who are DOE vendors, or if you're not a DOE vendor yet, so many of us who would love to implement our brands, our businesses into these schools as programs to offer these students, offer them services and or products. And y'all could pay us to do that. Where's the money going?
Right.
And this would benefit the children. We're not talking about, I just have some old rinky-dink job and it's like, well, why would you want to be in an elementary school? It's not servicing them, it's not helping them. You're just trying to make some money. No, this would also service the children. Why are you not allocating the funds for that? So my question is, so how is it that y'all can't afford? So if the numbers, enrollment has dropped, then y'all should be able to afford to feed these kids in school and send them home with lunch for the students who don't have food at home. You should be able to do all this because there's less students there, but there's more money. So where's money going? You got teachers complaining they don't make enough. Where is the money going?
Absolutely. I am flabbergasted. I don't know about you ladies, if y'all could keep a straight face, but when Vivian was reading those numbers, I'm like, well, who's lying?
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's done stories here before where, you know, they come up with these numbers and then later on find out that these numbers were falsified. Well, I'm believing that this is one of the instances. I don't know about y'all, but I'm believing this is one of the instances. I'm $43 billion. Okay, who's lying? Who's lying? Somebody lying, y'all. I done been in the schools. Ain't no $43 billion spent in those schools. Here's one of the questions that I have. So Al works in a school that is blended, middle schoolers and high schoolers. My granddaughter goes to a school that is blended, middle schoolers and high schoolers. So y'all done already cut schools out.
Correct.
Right.
So don't make it sound like y'all gonna start blending the schools, cutting schools, closing schools. Did you just say, Lady Tamika, that your school, the school you attended, is closed?
My elementary school is closed.
So, okay. So then, like Shanti just got finished saying, where's the money? Where is the money? You're talking about $44,000 per student because the student rate has dropped 158,000 students. Where these students went? Where did the students go? From when to when are we talking? What's the period of time that we're talking about? Are we talking about over a 5-6 year period? Are we talking about a 1 year period? Are we talking about when you let all these migrants in and then all of a sudden now you deporting everybody? Help me understand where all this money has gone, where all the students have gone. Where is all the money going? Because I'm not a believer. I am not a believer. Y'all have to show me some books and help me understand that this is where the money is going. There is no after school program supplies, y'all.
Right.
Do you understand that? There are no after school program supplies because they say the school can't afford it. I'm sorry. You just said you lost 158,000 students, but yet this $43 billion is still being thrown into the school. So where's the money? Where's the money? Like Shati said, staff, they're complaining that they don't have enough money then where is the money going? These numbers are very hard to believe. I'm personally, I don't know about y'all, I'm not sold because this here makes no sense. You would have to see this money in some shape, form, or fashion. I'm sorry. You definitely have to see this money here. And this is a place where they're saying that, hey, the transportation is not there. This special ed is eating up the money.
Where?
Stop. Stop, y'all. Stop. You can't, pee on us and tell us it's raining. It just ain't gonna work no more. I'm sorry. We're a little more educated and realistic and logical than that. And like I said, I don't know about the two of y'all. I'm not buying these numbers because there's nothing. There's nothing. We got a check-in from our girl Teresa. Good morning. We got an official check-in from Miss Grace. Hey, Miss Grace. Glad to know you're okay. Terrence says, we all know they stealing that money.
Yep.
And Teresa says charter schools. Wow. Okay. So, Teresa, are you saying that the charter schools are getting the money, or charter schools, they're building charter schools? Because from what I understand, and I may have it wrong, charter schools, they are part of their funding. This is what I was told, that part of their funding does not come from Board of Ed. They've got to scrape up money on their own. Now, maybe that was at one point, but this is what I was told from, I was actually looking quite a few, minutes ago to open a charter school. What did it take to open a charter school? And at that time, they said that you had to come up with a certain amount of money, and you had to get investors, and you had to do this, and you had to do that. So now Teresa's saying charter schools are getting the money. Maybe they shifted, the funding. Maybe they, didn't follow through on that. So I don't know. So Teresa, if you get a chance, please clarify that. If she doesn't clarify it in this particular show, I will definitely get that information from her and bring it back to you ladies. All righty. Well, what else are we talking about this morning? Long Island Railroad strike. Oh, wait. Vivis chiming in. So let's see what she's got to say. The children are leaving public schools. Oh, okay. And going to charter schools. 158,000 of them. So we're going to count some of the children who have relocated because their parents have moved out of New York City. And then we've got part of that going to the charter schools. All right. So then where's the money? Because, so now the ladies are justifying where some of the children are going. So then where's the money? Where's the money going? Still, there's the big question on the table. Thank you for that information, ladies. Thank you.
And how is it that we were able to do it in the past? Like, what changed so much
right
that now, I know for the schools you have to allocate the budget, prior to, and you say this goes here, this goes there. But then what changed so much that now we are deficient in the areas that we need to be proficient in?
Right. That the money is not going there to improve those particular areas.
Right.
Yes, that's a good question. All right. Teresa says the children are going there. Hold on. The children are going there and they are receiving public funds as well. Wow. There's a whole lot of stuff going on, y'all. There's a whole lot of stuff. Thank you for the clarification. All right. Long Island Railroad strike, possibly. And if all things are not worked out this Saturday, they will be striking. All righty. And back in 1994 was the last time they had a strike, which was for 2 days. And this is 3,500 Long Island railroad workers demanding at least a 5% raise because of the cost of living. And the Long Island Railroad powers that be say that they cannot afford it unless they cut services and or increase the fares. And the shutdown is going to really be a level of hardship, as they will have to replace it with like shuttles and things like that. And even then, it will not be a complete job. So there's a lot of negotiating that needs to actually take place. So they're hoping that negotiations are going to end well so that there will be no strike. Shantice.
We're gonna have to figure this out because I don't do no subways. So they're gonna really have to get this together. Again, there's money. There's money. And I know Long Island Railroad pretty much pay, they're known for paying well. So if it's because they have not given their employees a raise in a few years, where the employees feel like, okay, by this time we should have seen at least a slight increase, then give them the slight increase. Well, subway fares have gone up. I know that I remember before when I always had to take the Long Island Railroad to work, the tickets were a little more pricier than now, but y'all have it. It's like, come on, all right, get it together because we ain't doing no something.
Okay. Lady Tamika.
So the LIRR as it is, is already pricey, and then if you're one of those people who, checks every dime and dollar, which, we all should be one way or another, peak season, you pay more, off peak, so you may say, well, I'll wait, to take the train such and such because it's cheaper, and now you're saying that, to make the improvements again that are necessary, you may go up on the price again. It's already pricey. We're in the for both of these situations. How did we do it before? What is going on that now we can't fulfill the same thing that we've been doing? And it's a scary thing. Like, you didn't learn from the nurses' strike that somebody's gonna have to give. This coming back to the table every, okay, we'll table it for tomorrow. How many more times do you do that before you pay what needs to be paid and stop putting the burden on those people that travel? And then you're only going to make it even more complicated. The LIRR can be frustrating in itself, whether you ride every day or whether you ride, sporadically. That whole experience, especially when you don't know where you're going and you ask 6 people, it's not like the regular subway, where 9 times out of 10, if you ask somebody, is this the Manhattan bound side? They'll tell you blah, blah, blah. When you're on the LIRR, a lot of times you ask somebody, that is the most frustrating thing. So, I don't ride it that often. So when I do, I usually ask, people that I think might know. I asked about 6 or 7 people, and all of them go, So, do what needs to be done so that, you avoid another strike like what we had with the nurses.
Strike. Always always ends up being the alternative, unfortunately. So they're having the same plight that everyone else is having. Everything is going up. The cost of living is going up, except for their paychecks. I would really like to know, Shantice, do the research for me quickly and see if they have the last time the Long Island Railroad workers got an increase. I like to see that. That should be an interesting piece of information because we have seen a major increase um you know in the cost of living. Everything everywhere you go, everything has gone up. The bare necessities have gone up, whether it's property taxes on your home, whether it's the rent, whether it's utilities, whether it's food. These are just basic things that we have to live with. And these things are being increased over time. So now you have the railroad workers are saying, listen, I need to be able to support my family. And if they live out on the island, they are definitely experiencing some increase as well. So now you're working every day. Gas has gone up, especially since the what do you call it? The whole thing with Trump, and they're paying increases on that as well, on gas, cost. So now it's time for us to get a check increase. And unfortunately, striking is the only thing that they could ever really threaten you with. We're just going to stop working. And now you have the people who are writing who have gotten increases and now will potentially face another increase as a writer. So this is a really stuck between the rock and a hard place type of thing, because you can't get jobs out on Long Island. They're traveling and they're commuting into the city because that's where they're getting their money from. Shantice, did you see anything?
Yes, so from 2022 to last year, 2025, the workers were receiving annual raises for about 2.5% from 2021 to 2022, and about 3% from 23 to last year, 25. So now there is where they're disputing that they want an additional 5% raise starting this year.
Wow.
So they've been getting the raises, the increase, but now they want a bigger increase for this year.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much for getting that information for us. Sir says, I'm sorry, Long Island Railroad does not need a raise. Okay. And we got a check in from Miss Herlima. Good morning, Miss Herlima. Happy New Day to you as well. So, listen, if you've been getting an increase from 21 to 22, 23, 24, 25, then come on now. You done got, a couple extra dollars, and we know you're going to throw out, well, taxes eat that up. Well, you know what? What you going to do? What you going to do? If they've, if they've been giving you increases, you can't come back now talking about, I want more money. 5%. No, I think that's a little bit much. Now, if you hadn't gotten anything, that's a horse of a different color. But I really don't think that, this is going to be fair to come back and ask. Let's go back to the charter school conversation. Teresa says, on average, charter schools receive about 80% of the funding that traditional district schools get per student. Wow. Which might be one of the reasons why they claim that their education is better than public school system. If you get more of the money, you're going to put things in place a little differently than the public school system. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Teresa. All righty. Mayor Mom Donnie is on the good side of things finally, ladies. A couple of like a month or so ago, Vivian told us that there were reports that New Yorkers were going to see the increase of property taxes. Remember, they said the homeowners and the businesses were going to eat the increase on their property tax if the state did not jump in, or he could not increase taxes on the wealthy individuals. So now that the state has jumped in and thrown in billions of dollars to help provide that gap in the budget, now he says he will not rely, on us to fill the gap, but he will continue to lean on the state to support instead of the residents. And how's that sound to you, Lady Tamika?
I'm having a party right here.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Finally. He teeter-tottered for quite a while. Now he's teeter-tottering on the right side. Great. Property taxes as it is. I don't know any other state that has property taxes as high as we have them. And and don't be late. The interest that they put on the taxes is almost like $100 instantly. So I'm awfully excited that for once he's the advocate for us. Yay.
Yeah. All right, finally he's coming on this side of the fence, Tamika says. All righty. Shantae, what say you?
Thank you. Because again, I don't understand how these people claim they know what it is to do certain things, have certain responsibilities, and then you implement things that make it difficult. So if you know what it is to be a homeowner, then why would you raise property taxes? Why would you have property taxes, you have mortgage, you have insurance, you have maintenance, you have all this just on your home alone. We ain't talking about the luxuries like food. We're talking about those things. So to even consider raising the property taxes already was just like, are you kidding me? You ain't telling me you giving me a break on my mortgage or anything else, especially when you think about things like, God forbid, something goes wrong a certain way in your home, you have to then have a licensed contractor to come and do it. You can't even just have a regular, if your gas goes wrong in a certain way, you then have to call Con Ed to come. You can't just call no side person, or they'll come in and cut your gas off and all that, and then you have to pay a certain amount. So it's like with all of these things, if you really know what it is to be a homeowner, this wouldn't have even been a consideration. So it's really good to hear that his thing is like, okay, I'm gonna nip this in the bud so that the homeowners don't have to worry themselves, concern themselves with this.
All righty. Well, let's see. The comment says, all right. Serge says, funny thing is that the New York City transit workers can't go on strike because the law enforcement against us towards the union, they charge them for each strike date. Wow. Interesting. Well, that might be one of the reasons why they were only on strike for 2 days. Maybe they don't have that clause that they can't strike at all, but they have a limit on their striking. That might be. I don't know. I'm just wondering, could that be? And Ms. Halima says the problem with that is it's temporary and they use it against us again because now they know they can. Absolutely. Well, as a homeowner, I'm excited as well, like Lady Tamika, that I don't have to face this property tax. I don't think it should ever be on us.
Right.
Ever. That should never be a consideration. You already know who got the money, either the state or the rich people. Go to them. Leave us alone. You already know that we're already scratching from the bottom of our, piggy bank, and leave it alone. You're not providing more. You're not providing more. This is not like, every other thing where, you're not saying, well, we're getting X, Y, and Z, so therefore you're paying for it. We're not paying for we're not getting any benefit. Property taxes, the same property we've been on from the time you got in the house. So how fair is that? So I say leave that increase always to those two entities and stop threatening us, the low man on the totem pole, to pick up the deficit when there is a problem with your budget. Stop. Just stop, and stop again. Well, here we go. The wow story of the week. So, I agree with Vivian. The first wow story is how the parents picked up their 3-year-old with a deficiency to his face, and they did not realize until later that he had a hole in his face because his teeth had come through during what seems to be abuse that's going on at the daycare center. Well, they went through the surveillance tapes, videos, and they show that the workers were shoving and doing all kinds of things to these children. The owners had gone through the surveillance video and found that there were multiple incidences of how these workers had been mishandling and abusing the children, but they did nothing about it. And when one of the workers called CPS to report this, is when they actually did the investigation from the outside and found that this is what was going on. And these videos showed the workers hitting and shoving and yanking the children. And unfortunately, this is what was going on, and this was not being addressed by the literal owners, which is a husband and wife team. Well, those employees have been fired after said investigation. So what we're talking about here, Shantice, you got two different issues. You've got one, the parents picking up their child and not noticing until later that there was even an imperfection in the child, different than when they took the child to the daycare. And then you have the subsequent story of the owners who ignored, the evidence that children had been abused in the care of the employees that they hired, and they did nothing about it.
As the story was initially being given, what came to mind was how a lot of these parents, whether they can afford it or not, this is the reason why they don't want to send their children to daycare. Because they're like, it's too much. It's too much of does the facility or the home have cameras? How much time am I going to do if I find out kid? And in addition to that, you putting your hand on my kid and I'm paying you mortgage to watch my child. And ain't no watching going on. So you guys covered this up. Everybody should get charged. Everybody. Because I could not see myself manning any business, any organization. And I'm responsible for Mary being here because I hired Mary. And then Mary, I can't. And then Mary goes, and whatever she does, now the baby's tooth is going through his lip. They may have to call the authorities on me to do that, because the first thing I'm thinking about is this automatically falls on me in a sense because I'm the one manning this shit. So now for me to cover it up, it's just, I'm now saying I condone this. Because here's one thing, yes, it's one thing if, you know, oh, okay, so this happened at Shanti's Fruit Loop Daycare Center, one of her employees, but then it was reported that Shanti's reprimanded in this way, and she made sure she pressed her own charges in addition to the family pressing charges. You know what I'm saying? It's like, once you read about the damage control, I'm gonna still be mad, and it's still a strike against my business. But would I rather that, or when Shanti's did cover it up, so was she also in there poking kids in the eye and tripping them down the steps? It's like, come on, like, what are we doing? And then now for the parents, was a bag over his head when you picked the baby up? How do you not? You know, I go to pick my niece up. I notice when it looked like one strand of hair is not in place. I'm like, well, what were y'all doing in there today? Building a classroom? Why do you look like that? What was happening? Let alone, you know, it looking like someone physically, you know, attacked or had some type of interaction with her or anything. Like, it's like, come on. I don't understand again, we were talking about this last night. The attentiveness with these parents is just crap. How do you not notice? It's like, come on. So what are you doing with the child? Or you really not doing with the child at all that you didn't notice something like that?
Wow. Lady Tamika, you pick up your child, you don't notice until later that the child has an imperfection that he or she didn't have when you drop them off, and only to find out there's some other stuff going on in the classroom.
I'm just looking at all of this to the employee or ex-employee that reported. So this employee was smart enough. I mean, can you imagine going to a job, you working for a school or, you know, a facility, a daycare, and you say, okay, I finally got in. You know, you get in and you see this going on. Now, I'm not going to stick around here. You know, I'm going to leave. And in addition to leaving, I'm calling Child Protective Services. Okay, got that. Then I start looking at this picture with these children. I look at the child that was injured. And then I look at the other child. There's like this blur on the back of the head. Did y'all damage this child? Is there a bruise there that, you know, you hit this child as well? Then the other child in the corner pocket that's like cowering down looks like, you know, I'm like, is that a form of punishment? You know, just looking at the picture itself, you know, why is this child looking like that? And then my thing is, how long has this foolishness been going on? You know, with regard to you hitting and not, there's no paperwork, there's no nothing. Right. You know, so how many children have gone through this damage and it not being told? The third thing, you know, when you look at a child, whether the child is yours, whether you're the guardian, whether you're the auntie, the first thing you should look at is the face.
Child.
Johnny used to talk to me like this. Now Johnny's talking to me like this.
That's because you never
look at his mouth. Like, why does his mouth is closed and I'm looking at his tooth? How in the world? You know, it's not one of these things where he's missing a tooth. He's talking to me and his tooth is on the up. What parent does that? What guardian does that? Like, how is it that you missed that? Or were you so involved in your life that you just told the child to get in the car? You know, and even when the child goes, mommy, you don't say, just shut up. You know, is it that type of relationship? Like, how did you miss that part? You know, so nobody's doing their due diligence except for the ex-employee.
Goodness gracious. Ooh, Shantice, do me a favor. Show that picture again. Okay. Just answered my question.
No, what side of the fence they on?
Okay. So Terrence says, I don't care. I'm opening up a can of whoop you.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody. Just walking the door and start smacking every adult you see.
I got a question. My kids ain't ever got picked up and did not run down to me what happened during the day. I already knew what was wrong with this picture right from the story. I'm saying to myself, Shantice, she told it. 5 years later, Shawnee's, she told it. 8 years later,
You know Tamasia told it.
she told it. I ain't never had a kid that kept her mouth shut. Don't you teach your children to talk? When you listen, this is one of the reasons why I know they didn't teach their kids to talk, because both of you have said it. When you pick your kid up, already you examine him just instinctively. You know what I'm saying? It's not even like, let me examine you. Automatically, this is going down when you pick up your kid. Right. You're looking at him from head to toe. And because the last two, Shantice was the only one who came back the way I sent her. Tamasia and Shawnee's child looked like two different children.
They were in the school building. They had them child labor laws. Okay. They were in there building the classrooms. I don't know what was happening.
Like, well, I sent you this way. How I pick you up this way? What were you doing? And the teachers would just laugh because they automatically heard the conversation and they could see the puzzle look on my face and the tone of my voice. I'd be like, well, where's Shawnee's? She's right there. That ain't my Shawnee's. That's somebody else's child. Because she looked completely different. Shawnee's hair would be all twisted and oh my gosh, it would just. So instinctively, as a parent, you pick up your child, or like you said, Tamika, an auntie or grandma. Because let me tell you something, my mother can go pick up them kids a certain way. And when she picked them up, before she got back to the house, she'd be calling me Stephanie. So there's nowhere in the world grandma or my sister, auntie could have picked them up and they would have been called like, Steph, what's going on? So instinctively, you pick up your children and you're already examining your children. But not only that, the first thing when you pick them up, whether I was walking with them or driving, what happened today? Mm-hmm. First question that you ask, how was your day?
That's why. How
was your day? Which prompts the child to speak. So that's why what are you doing over there?
Because I'm saying, so I used to pick up my nephew. First thing that I did was I got a hug and a kiss.
Right.
So that didn't happen. You told that child, get in the car and shut up.
Not them. No, not them. Not them in that picture. No, girl. Did you, Shanti, show that picture again? They ain't put no kid in no car telling them.
You're right.
That's us. That's us. But again, I agree with you. Even those of us who put the child, say, shut up, get in the car, put the seatbelt on. Remember that one, Shantice? Get in the car, put your own seatbelt on. Even by the time you get in the car, they already yapping. They're already telling you, mommy.
You can't even say hi. You go pick them up as soon as they see you. Mommy, could do that? Hi.
Yeah, right. Mommy. They're already,
whether they're telling you something good or bad, right? It's just they're excited to tell you.
Right. So this just shows you the vast difference, because like you said, you go to give the hug, instinctively you are automatically, reviewing them, and you're, enjoying, the fact that you're seeing them, or like, Lord, let me get these kids home because I got homework to do, or whatever the situation is. So that's my first thing. How in the world did you last till later before you figured out there was a hole in his face, his lip, anything in the face of all things. Of all things. Because come on now, let's talk about this thing real quick. Face is ashy, dry.
Right.
You see what they had to eat today. Come on, y'all. That's it. Come on, y'all know how it goes down.
When the hard part of the end of the shoelace is missing. Like, okay, how did that happen?
Your shirt was clean when you left the house. What is this?
What's happening at recess that the hard part of the laces ain't there no more? Like, what?
Yes, or everything that they ate is on the shirt.
Yes.
Or the shirt has been changed because what they ate is all over the shirt, so they had to change the clothes.
So now you mad because you got to do laundry to set another change over there.
So I'm like, well, what? So even when Vivian started, what she said, that's a wild story in and of itself. It's true. Because you know how it goes down when we pick up our kids. Now you're going to tell me that you got a husband and wife team that then sat back and watched the video and you didn't do anything. You didn't reprimand your people. You didn't report your people. You didn't fire your people. You did nothing. You just sat back, looked at this video and said, okay, we'll just see tomorrow morning how it works out. Nah, they would have been reading about this daycare in the news for real. Because the way it would have gone down was parents attack daycare owners. Let me also bring out something else about on this side of the fence. You never want one parent to pick up a kid and see something wrong. You know why? Because it's an infectious conversation.
That's it.
And every parent that walks in the door after me, check your child out. Check your child out. I just pick my child up. And yes. Yeah, it ain't gotta be playing. Every parent that walked in the door right after me, I'm making it my business to stay an extra 25, 30 minutes to stay there and let every parent know. How you doing? Check your child. Those are laces they came with because I just picked my child up. And sometimes I'm waiting to speak to Mrs. So-and-so because they're going to explain to me how, it'd have been over. It'd have been over.
Walking in the room because all the chatter has gotten so loud.
Yep.
That now the director's trying to figure out, well, what's going on over in class number 3?
Yep.
That's the way it's going down in the hood. And that's just real talk. Real talk. All 3 of my kids that went through daycare, like I told you, I didn't just broke it down. We ain't talking about the right back to back. All 3 of them, three different seasons went down, and that's the way it went down. You are not picking up your kid and one parent sees something. One, just all you need is one seeing something wrong, and everything is lit up after that. They try now. You got the teachers in the room. Now they talking. They nervous because they don't want an outbreak. Yo, that's the real.
Be a whole uprising.
Right. So this is another reason why I'm saying this ain't us, because there's nowhere in the world that there would be some. They'd be standing over in the director's office.
You got it.
How you doing, Miss Campbell? Did you let me tell you something. I just picked up so-and-so and such a thing was going down. They don't care whether Miss Campbell on no phone, whether she talking to another parent.
No, they don't tell a parent on the phone.
And if Miss Campbell looked like she put her pocketbook on to leave and getting her coat, oh, Miss Campbell, you might as well cancel dinner. That's good. That's right. Because it's on. It's on.
There's going to be some slow singing and flower bringing.
Absolutely. So, this here with this, you didn't reprimand your people until an ex-employee or an employee who saw it and stumbled across it called. Nah, this ain't us. This is not us. It ain't going down like that in the hood, y'all. That's why I had to ask Shanti, show that picture again. Because I kept saying, I never really looked at the picture when she put it up. But when I started thinking, and as y'all were talking, I'm like, nah. Look at them little legs right there. See them little legs on the little smaller picture? That's all of them right there. That ain't happening. That's not happening. So, you know what? This is a wild story because the shame on the owners. and they would be too afraid. The owners would be too afraid for this to go down, and they did not pay proper attention to what was going on. So thank you for indulging me in our how can I say this? Reminiscing. Our reminiscing of what goes down when you pick up your child in the hood stories. All right. That's how we do it. That's how we do it. All right. I stumbled across something a little while ago. And I wanted to talk to you ladies about it because, again, who's having this conversation? Now, this just came up when I read it, but this just part, that question right there just came up after we had this conversation. I didn't ask that question when I was reading it, but I want to know what you ladies think. So here's a scenario. My wife, Nadia, and I have been married for 6 years, together for 10. Our marriage is great, except for one thing that is becoming a real source of conflict. We both want kids, but we disagree on how we should go about having them. Come on, my due time viewers, I want you in on this conversation. Nadia is adamant that we either adopt or use an egg donor. Her reason is that her family has a number of members who suffer from serious psychiatric disorders, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, major depression. Nadia says it's no small miracle. She lucked out in the genetic lottery and didn't end up with one of the mental illnesses. After witnessing and experiencing what those disorders are like, she isn't willing to take a chance of somehow passing along those disorders given the genetic components involved. I would really like to have a child or children that are biologically mine and Nadia's. I've pointed out that there's always a chance for a kid to have a mental illness, even if we were to adopt or use an egg donor. Her answer is that she has bad genes and doesn't want to knowingly risk inflicting them on a child who will have to suffer the lifelong consequences. Is her position a reasonable one? And Shantice, you got first dibs on this one. Since maybe Tamika started the other round.
So I tell you that my family is touched and you still want to reproduce.
Please.
I don't want to reproduce with you. That's dumb. Like, you really took the time to write and submit this?
Oh gosh.
I'm telling you, I'm letting you know it's not a surprise. You saw it for yourself. You saw it for yourself. I ain't have to tell you. Why you acting like you this is news to you? You saw it when we went to the barbecue. Okay? They didn't have to be officially diagnosed. You saw. This ain't us. This ain't us.
To the family reunion.
This ain't us. Because see, you didn't even have to say it. We be asking you questions. You got schizophrenia in your family? You ain't see your cousin Nana. You didn't see Nana over at the grill. You see what happened at the grill? Did you not see what happened at the grill? Like, there's no way. I'm telling you this. And you look back over at me and say, so what's up? Are you ovulating now? Because we can get I just said I don't want another one of those. And you still want no. I'm trying to save us because somebody's gonna lose their life. Something's gonna happen. Because I just told you about the post about the husband. They were married. From what she said, there were no signs of either side of the family having any issues. When she was pregnant, the doctors told them that the baby was going to be born deficient. The husband just up and walked out. The next time he saw the son was walking across the stage collecting his degree from college because God then healed the boy after all that he went through. I'm not gonna now take a chance of you leaving me because you acting like you startled that our child either come out with 2 toes and 1 finger, or mentally and then you gonna act like you don't know because now you thought you could handle it because you want somebody. There's something wrong with you too. So they ain't only on my side. There's deficiencies on your side as well. Because I'm telling you that this is the problem, and you're still saying it's okay. No. You're the one with the problem, not her. So you writing a letter, but the issue is you.
Vivian said, Nadia was born a man.
How did you get there?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Oh my goodness. And Miss Herlima says she's already broke the mold within herself. Just give it to God and they will be okay. All right, Tamika. Miss Herlima, I wonder about you.
I'm about to say, wait, I need a breakdown because are you saying that you should say, okay? This is very disturbing. Oh, truth don't work either. Okay.
Lady Tamika, I ain't laugh like this in a minute.
I'm already scarred just by Shantice's statement. I need a minute.
Because this is like, what?
When she started out with touched, I was done. I was already finished.
I know, me too. That's why and I've been laughing ever since. Okay, Miss Herlima, I need some clarity. Okay, wait. Well, what you said was she didn't have any of them. Am I reading this right?
Mm-hmm. That's what it says.
Oh, she didn't have to. Wait, Shanti's highlighted for me.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I gotta put the banner up. This has to be a special banner.
Okay, wait. Miss Olima says, well, what you said was she didn't have any of them. Miss Olima, I'm lost.
No, she told him. She told him, my family is 730. Okay. I'm looking at all of the children that have been produced in this family. And no, I don't want one of those. For my family. I'm telling you about I ain't even criticizing your family. This is mine. I've watched all my life. And every time somebody reproduces, they get one of those. I don't want one of those.
All right. So Lady Tamika, go ahead.
This is crazy. I'm mad. Like he said it to me.
I get that. I understand that. Now I'm gonna go on the other side of that. So we're gonna go with what she says. She wants to adopt, and bring in another, raise somebody else's child. As someone who has fostered children, as someone who has assisted to help raise, so you go from not my seed to somebody else's seed. And I'm not saying that all of these children that are fostered, but understand that adoption and fostered children, they have already gone through their plateau of damage, degrees of neglect, because they're left in an area where they're adopted. So you bear some of the same issues that you would have if you had the seed yourself, because some of these children have mental issues. Some of these children have emotional detachment and things that you're going to have to push and press through, and so, you have to trust God in all of your decision making, because if you decide to have a seed on yourself, through your own womb, you have an issue, you have a responsibility. And if you raise someone else's child, you still have the same responsibility. You have to trust God in all of your ways, and He'll direct your path. As for you, we look at just this lady that yesterday, it was yesterday where she said that, she was concerned about her child's height, because of the issues that was transpiring. So she traumatized herself, with all of the degrees that her child would go through. Either way, whether you decide to have a child yourself or whether you adopt, you still have the burden of responsibility. Trust God in all of your decision making prior to making the choices.
Okay.
That was beautiful.
We got two. Okay. Wait. Okay, so we got some comments, and then I'll weigh in myself. Okay. Vivian says, listen, my family ain't all right in the head, but if I could, I would still have children. That's my only explanation that she is a he.
Huh? What is she?
Vivian, I'm still lost, girl.
Vivian, go take it on the
screen because I don't understand none of this. She's a he.
Right.
My head hurts.
Transgender.
Oh my God.
Traumatized.
Miss Halima says she said her family is 730. Unfortunately, she didn't come out with any of them. Okay. So if that's the case, they might as well have your own. Okay. I have another comment. Back in the day, my grandmother was a pastor, and she would ask married couples who were, getting, couples that wanted to get married. One of the things she would ask is about their, like, if there was any mental illness in the family. I remember that. I remember say that. And she said, after, I'm being reminded that couples started answering and started really thinking about this thing. Term says Shantice needs more help. Okay, so I'll weigh in on this one. Okay. I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. No. So here's my thought. Here's my thought pattern. When I adopt, I have the option of taking a child with whatever. If I take an infant, then I'm rolling the dice. But if I take an older child, pretty much there's something that has surfaced that they have discovered. Well, they have ADHD, or there's some level of autism, or some other type of, mental illness that's going on. At that point, I have an option of saying no or yes. If I have a child with someone and we're married, I ain't got no option after this child is born. I personally do not agree with rolling the dice on this thing here. I 100% agree with Shantice. People think they can handle things, and then they find out at the last minute that they can't handle it. How do we know that Nadia is not saying no because he has already shown a level of not being able to handle things in the manner in which he should? Now, that does not come up in this, in the letter, but that has to be a consideration.
You already showed he don't listen, Pastor Steph, so that confirms your point.
Well, it's not that he doesn't listen. It's that he's adamant. His heart is on having his own child. And being that Nadia has not, in his opinion, as well as her opinion, exemplified any mental illness, he feels, that they can also roll the dice and end up on the other side of a success. Where they just might get another Nadia. Well, you just might get someone who is going through, or who will go through, some level of mental illness. And here's my thing, and I don't know how many of you are thinking this thing, but I'm surely thinking these children are already coming into a world that's hell.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot eliminate the fact that if I don't know that I have this history in my family, that there's genetic issues in my family that will possibly render this child disabled in any manner, especially at a high rate in which he's describing and Nadia is clearly seeing, they already coming here having to deal with issues. If you're 100% fine, you got issues to deal with out here.
Mhm.
Now I'm going to bring a child here that will possibly be mentally disabled, and I'm going to throw him or her into this system, because guess what? Unless I plan on staying home with this child, that child's going to have to go to somebody's daycare. That child's going to have to go to somebody's school. Somebody's going to have to take care of this child while I go to work. Unless you plan on going to work and you're going to make the money and I stay home, and she already knows what she wants to deal with. And see, that's another thing that I'm kind of having a problem with. You see, ain't nobody talked about this before y'all got married. Why all of this conversation is post marriage. This conversation should have come up before you got married, and not think that, oh, it'll work itself out after you were married. This conversation, had it come up and it had been given some serious thought, then she shouldn't have married him. He shouldn't have married her, because it makes no sense now to be in this marriage and now y'all are at some roadblock because she wants to either adopt or get an egg donor, which she's also running the risk, or pushing for him to satisfy him to have a child. And I'm sorry, at all this news we doing, I ain't gambling like that.
I was about to say, we just got finished talking about this daycare. She didn't say this was a special needs child. This is what they're doing to the general education children. So now, if I don't have patience with the general education, what level of patience do these teachers, most of these teachers, have with the special needs children? When you said that, Pastor Steph, I'm looking like just a few minutes ago, we just got finished talking about the general education student has the tooth through the lip because the teacher didn't have no patience. What happens with the special needs child? And there's no like, oh, my child is special needs 3%. We don't know to what degree. But not only that, did we not learn anything from Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar? Read your Bible. Do we not learn anything from when God says something or when God allows us to see? We always ask God, God, show me. And God shows us. And we still tell God what we want. How do we know that wasn't God's way of showing both of them? Because we know that God could defy the odds and your child be the one to come out different on either end. Everybody could be fine. Right, everybody could be fine, but you the one with the child with special needs. Everybody got special needs, but you the one with the child that could be fine. Yes, we know, because God he can do anything at the same time. This is why we have IVF. This is why we got all these things now, because people keep pushing past what God is showing them. And because I want what I want, I'm going to now go to another option, like you said, to either fulfill my desire or the desire of my spouse or who I'm dating. And there's no way I can grow up with this and you tell me you're bypassing this and you still want this.
Well, Miss Halima says, Ketty says, Shantice is going raw today. Miss Halima says, I think it's all up to God, no matter which way we go. I'll ask you, Lady Tamika, do you agree or disagree with that?
I believe that, I'm just taking a moment. I've always believed that, you trust God, you inquire with God, and God will let you know whether, you should or shouldn't. She's clearly saying that she doesn't want to, and I agree with you. This thing should have been one of those conversations that started way, the sad part about it, especially when we rush to the altar and then there's other things afterwards. You're like, the other thing is either side, whether you choose to have birth, your own seed, or whether you just choose to adopt. And there's all these other things that you can't fathom. You don't know anything until after that seed comes to fruition. You don't know any of that. And I would say just see God in all that, and he'll tell you which one, between the two of you. Now you're already married. So now both of you have to inquire with God as to what choice you should make, if one at all.
Okay. I think it's all up to God no matter which way you go. Well, at what point are we talking about it's up to God? Is God, here's my thing. Is God being gracious enough? Is God being gracious enough at this point to reveal to me that this could be a genetic issue with my child? Is this God revealing it to me? And now faith without works is dead. Whereas now that I have been presented with all the information that I need, can I be the one in a million that have this baby and I don't have any issue? Yes. Why? Because I am one who came past the odds of what I could have been. Mm-hmm. However, am I rolling the dice with what God has already revealed to me? It's different when I read, I think it's all up to God no matter which way we go. We ain't talking about she pregnant and then found out some genetic issue could be involved. And now you trying to figure out whether you abort early or go ahead with the pregnancy. I've known other issues where some people, I've heard of a couple of stories where the doctors have told mom, listen, having this baby could cost you your life. You got to make up your mind. Either abort and you and the baby could possibly go. Either abort or you and the baby can possibly go. Then for me personally, this particular statement, I think it's all up to God no matter which way you go. That to me is different than the information being given prior to us deciding to have the baby. That to me, personally, I'm not going to God on whether I need to have a baby when 85% of my family got issues. I'm not going to God on that. I'm saying, huh?
But could it be faith over fear? Is it?
I'm not fearful. I'm not fearful.
With the things that she knows, could it also be? I mean, because there's still that 20% that's still open.
Absolutely. And I'm not willing to take the 20%. Here's the other thing that comes to my mind. Ain't nobody guaranteed to have no kids. This conversation is like everybody is supposed to have a child if you get married. I don't read that anywhere in the Word of God. I read that a child is a blessing, but I don't read in the Bible anywhere where it says once you get married, every couple is supposed to have children.
Right.
I don't see that. So that's another thing. See, I'm thinking all this stuff here. I'm thinking, am I supposed to be one who should be adopting? Didn't we talk about this the other day? I think it was Monday. This was a very recent conversation. Am I supposed to be one that I'm designed to be the blessing for? Yes, it was Monday, because I was saying how some children are born to be a blessing into a family. Are we supposed to be the couple that give life to life, where we adopt a child that's already here but wasn't wanted, was abused, mishandled, however you want to put it? This is like somebody saying to me, everybody in the world is supposed to have kids. And I don't see that biblically. So if you're telling me that there's a 20% chance, I've already established that. I've already established that she has already been the exception to the rule. Nadia has come out unscathed. Is Nadia wrong for not wanting to roll the dice on this one? And personally, I don't feel she's wrong. I agree with her. I do not feel I want to go have no kid. And then at the end of the day, I got to deal with a child who is mentally disabled. Why am I supposed to deal with this as though I'm mandated to have children? And that's the way this, if for me, this conversation is coming across. Terrence says, I agree, Pastor Steph, or because you're married don't mean you're supposed to have kids. So I'm not negating at all that this could actually end up very successful.
I think,
however, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think also the biggest issue for me is the ignoring. That's why I say he's already showing his level of deficiency, that you're ignoring something as important as this. And coming from someone, I don't have any children. And I thank the Lord every day that he let this Red Sea part so that I ain't help reproduce any more of what I was dating. And I'm pretty sure they feel the same way about me, because they didn't have any children who was diagnosed with any level of mental or physical dysfunctions. However, they were the ones with the mental dysfunction. So now I could have been the one to come out possibly with the one who had the dysfunctions that were blatant, the child that had the dysfunctions that was blatant. And if not for any other reason, but because God allowed me to see beforehand, would you want to reproduce with this person? Whether it was, God doesn't want me reproducing with them at all, or at that time. And everybody, we're living in a world where everybody ignores everything because it has everything to do with leaning to my own understanding. This is what I feel. This is what I want. This is what could be. This is what couldn't be. There's no way you could tell me that it's 80-20 and the 20% is the percent that it might go well, and you still want to go with that. That is bonkers to me. Not it's 80-20 and it's an 80% chance that everything is going to be good. And then it's that 20% chance that it could fail. You say, well, you know what? The good is outweighing the bad. The bad is outweighing the good, and we're still going to take a chance. Because let me tell you something. This ain't the only area that he's willing to do this in. They only got 20% of the funds, and they're 80% in debt, but he still want to go buy that house, or he still want to go buy that car, or he still want to go out drinking with the boys, or he still want to do this. And she's sitting here saying, but we only got $20 in the bank and we're $80 in debt. But we can still make this work. We have to stop. We have to stop ignoring what God is showing us. And I think for me, that is the biggest thing that I'm taking away from this.
As much as I love my girls, I give God thanks every day that nobody has any issues. And I had Shantice young. I had at 18. And I give God thanks that I had Shantice at 18, I had Shawnice at 24, and I had Tamasia at 32. And I give God thanks every day that I did not bring a child here and that any of them were anywhere disabled, because again, I think about the world we live in, and I think about what our normal children have to suffer through. And personally, I'm not willing, whether it's 80-20, I think it's a blessing that I know in advance that there is a possibility that there could be, and I'm not, and if anyone else feels any differently, you know, as has been stated here, everybody has a right to feel, you know, the way they feel, and that, you know, you want to take the chance or whatever. As having 3 children, I'm grateful to God that I don't have to. It's enough for me to send them out every day. As adults, I still worry about my kids leaving out of this house and coming back safely. And I'm saying, so even as they got to be adults, we looked at the adult child who had the autism, and he was tearing up the house. He wasn't a little kid, but this was a grown woman, a mother who was enduring this autistic behavior. And I give God thanks every day that that is not my plight. So, I think we need to consider a lot of things here. Why Nadia did not want to, and I don't think it has anything to do with her trusting God. That's my person. And anybody knows me knows I'm a faith-driven woman. I'm just not believing, and that's just my belief, that she's not trusting God, and she needs to roll the dice and then trust God. So this has been a much more stimulating conversation than I even thought. Thank you so much, ladies, for your contribution into today's conversation. And I pray you have a blessed day. Thank you so much. Excellent conversation. Excellent conversation. Thank you. Woo! I am remembering a scripture that says, examine the facts. And this is scripture. This is scripture. And we take scripture for what it is. There's also the scripture that says, without faith, it's impossible to please to God. Examine the facts sticks out to me here. God has been so merciful and gracious to help us examine the facts. It's funny that I was reminded of my grandmother, who used to, because I remember she used to say, I started asking them, you better look back at your family. And I have said from the pulpit, when y'all start dating, y'all better start asking a whole lot of questions so that you clearly understand what you're getting involved with, that you clearly understand what your possibilities are. If you were to procreate, get the facts, examine the facts. And my grandmother was diagnosed, not that grandmother, my other grandmother was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And we questioned her children. No, none of them have been diagnosed with anything. So if you will, they all beat the odds. And I have a cousin. It's not many of us on my grandmother's side. On that grandmother's side, it's not a whole lot of us. But I have a cousin who has a sibling. And I've watched this particular cousin say and do some things that I'm like, they emotional and they acting kind of crazy. I'm the oldest grandchild. And I've watched behaviors. And I'm like, now, grandma had 4 kids. They seem to be okay. But it can't skip a generation. And I'm looking at some stuff that I'm wondering if it did skip a generation and it landed somewhere on my generation, in my generation. And I watched this behavior for quite some time. And the sibling, when I was speaking to the sibling said, I want y'all to pay attention to this stuff and why I say the things that I say. The sibling said that individual who I said I had watched, and I was beginning to wonder, the sibling said that one said, I know something's wrong with me, but I ain't going nowhere to find out. I left you there in silence for a reason. See, we talking about God here, right? Now, I'm not saying that parent, my grandmother's child, should not have had children, blah, 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 blah. But what I'm saying is, what do we as individuals do as individuals? So, never mind the fact that you have a responsibility to your children, because that individual had a child at the time. So there's no responsibility to yourself, to others, to that child you had, and going down the line. And see, we assume that people are going to be responsible. We assume people are going to do what they're supposed to do. Now, you already know that grandma was diagnosed, but you don't want to go and definitively find out if something's wrong with you. Why don't you want to know? You don't want to know for whatever the reason is. And some might say she has a right to not want to know. And I beg to differ. I say, for the sake of your children and your grandchildren possibly, you need to know why, because we need to pass that information down. You understand what I'm saying to you? I have told my girls that mental illness, although it wasn't widespread like Nadia's family, it was only, from what we know, diagnosed in this individual, that you need to know that this is in your lineage, so that every decision you make about having children, you would have examined the facts. You cannot move forward ignoring what God has given you as information in order for you to make the decision. Now, that's why I said it then becomes an issue of if there's faith over fear, or you trust in God or whatever. And that's why I said I don't believe at this point. Again, for me, it's about trusting God. I think God has already given me, now grandma having being grandma diagnosed makes a difference in me knowing whether I want to move on. And if I make the decision of yes, or if I make a decision of no, nobody should beat me up about it. Plain simple as that. And it has nothing to do with whether I don't think that is whether I trust God or not. If I don't feel like, one instance of there being some mental, if that freezes me at a point and I don't want to have it, then fine. If I feel like this, if you want to bring God into the equation, that God would move her heart to do it. He understands why Nadia feels the way she feels. And I don't believe God is looking at her saying, you don't trust me. I think if God wants her to have children, he'll move in her heart to do so. I think that's how faith, God nudges us to trust. God nudges us to have faith. There's something that comes along that will help us to build our faith. So, again, does he know that Nadia would not be a good parent, or the husband would not be a good parent? Because again, homeboy might be saying a whole lot of things right now. Then when the baby come along, he can't handle it. Let me bring something else up. There has been many an instance where the husband and wife, male and female, talk about having a kid. They have kids, and now the husband is jealous. Ain't nothing wrong with the child. And the husband is jealous. Because now all the attention that he used to get, the children or the child now gets. That's real. So now he didn't anticipate, remember now, all this conversation about us having kids, he's all for it. And now when baby comes along, he's mad because the child gets all the attention. Well, wait a minute, didn't we talk about this thing? You didn't consider the fact that now all the attention that would normally go to you now goes to the child, and now I'm getting attention and the child is getting attention. But because I'm not an infant, I'm not a baby, I'm not a toddler, you got to give that area a little more attention, and you're not going to get jealous. And it's not like we didn't discuss this thing here. We planned this child. There are instances where children are literally planned, and when the baby comes along, dad is now jealous. So then my question becomes, if Nadia has children, how is he ultimately going to handle if this child is anywhere mentally ill? Is he going to want to run back and forth to school if need be? Is he going to want to run back and forth for testing purposes? Is he going to want to run back and forth to the doctor's visit? If our child is so mentally disabled that they really need to go into a facility, is he going to be able to handle that? Are we trusting God then? Is that an area of literally trusting God? Are we trusting God for if this comes out to be on the other side of good? How do we trust God at that point? Because I'm going to be honest, I don't think that's an opportunity to start trusting God. I don't think that's an opportunity where we're going to put trusting God to the test. Because here's what I have learned by experience and by watching. That trusting God era, period, season, a whole lot of stuff goes wrong during that period. Because we're so busy being emotional, we're so busy leaning on this, we're so busy leaning on that. It takes a minute to trust God through some things. And while we're not trusting God and we're fighting our way to trust God, what's happening during that period? What am I not doing? Where am I what am I lackadaisical in? What can I put all of my energy into while I'm learning to trust God at this point? Because see, saying I'm trusting God now while we're in the process of making this child is a whole big difference in trusting God after this deficient child gets here. There's going to be a lot of responsibility involved in helping to raise a child. And a lot of people are not up for it. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who believe that they are, and they are not. Are we going to run that risk in advance? Are we really willing to roll the dice? Because even if I lean on this, well, I'm trusting God. Remember now, God is the faithful. God is the faithful one. We can rely on what God says because God is a man of his word. However, the word of God says man will fail us every time. And am I really going to be mad at Donald because we trusted God now and he puts his best foot forward after, and he realizes at that point he can't handle it? I don't know if I want to gamble that either, that it's going to take him a year to get himself together. Because during that year where he's trying to build his faith, how am I managing alone with this disabled child while my husband is trying to get himself together. Really. I'm not saying, like he's just negligent. I'm talking about he really thought he could. And right now, we in front of the pastor, we praying on this thing. We going through all of this stuff while we're trying to raise Donald Jr., who has a mental illness. I don't know about this one, y'all. I don't know about this one. And again, I'm a woman of faith. And I don't know if I want to roll the dice on this one. It's almost like rolling the dice with a person who you see ain't about nothing. And I have this, and he talked about having this child. Come on, babe, come on, have this child. I'm gonna do the right thing. And I don't see the evidence right now. I'm trusting God that he's gonna be a man of his word, and he's gonna step up to the plate. But do I really want to roll the dice and have this child with this man before he ultimately shows me that he's going to step up and be responsible? It's the same gamble. It's a gamble in two different ways, but it's still a gamble. And when I roll the dice and he ends up saying, yo, this is a lot on my plate, babe, and I ain't think I was going to feel like this. I'm talking about the irresponsible one. Can you be angry? Because you rolled the dice. And you said, I'm trusting God on this one. And God has already revealed to you he ain't about nothing. Wait until he gets to get to that point, shows you he's about something. Because I have literally seen irresponsible people become real responsible after the child gets here. I've seen that. But can I tell you something? I've seen it more on the other side. I've seen it more where they weren't responsible to begin with, and they went even worse. And they were talking of being responsible. And then when the child got here, it's a whole different story. So I think my personal faith in God says, thank you for the information you've provided me with. And I believe that me and my husband could better benefit a child who maybe is a little mentally ill. Maybe we may want to do something like that, but at least we know pretty much what we're getting, and we're both walking into this, opposed to it being the other way around. I think my faith says, is God pushing me and my husband to just be a blessing to a child, period, who is already here? We talked, like I said, it's funny that this came up the other day, how we can be a blessing to children who are here. A lot of people, they always say a lot of people run for the infants, and yet there are other children that are older that really need a lot of love. And they're just like, their behavior is bad. You know what I'm saying? Because they're angry at a lot of things, and they feel resentful because their parents dropped them off on somebody's doorstep, or their parents walked off from them, and they're angry, and they don't want to, be in a foster home, and they have anger issues and behavioral problems, and there are some people who have really taken the time to show love and turn that child all the way around. Is that what God wants for me and my husband, to give love here? Is that my level of faith that says, there's nothing that says we have to have children, but we can show love to children? Should we foster? Maybe our home could be used for foster care, and bring children in and give them love, true love, where other poor foster homes just want them for the money. But me and my husband, my faith in God says we can show love to those children who have to go through the system, because no one did adopt them, and they need love, and we can care for them, and we can get them prepped and through, because we're going to give them God, we're going to show them God, and we're going to help them get through high school, and they'll be off and on their own and maybe prepared for marriage or college or whatever, a career, whatever it is. And we just do this thing all over again. Is that my level of faith? So I think there are a lot of options here that could be leaned, that faith could be leaned on and into, opposed to maybe pushing the envelope to literally have a child of our own. So if we look at things a little broader, maybe then, we'll think of maybe where Nadia's head is. But I think that I don't think that saying Nadia doesn't have faith in God and things like that is the right way to go. That she's witnessed what she's witnessed, and her decision is, I don't want to go that route. So, let's trust God for our individual life. Let's trust God when we have these, decisions to make. Let us look at the whole picture. Let's look at the big picture and let us examine the facts. You've been watching It's Due Time with Pastor Steph. Join us Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. where we discuss matters of the heart, mind, and spirit. As you go through your day, be sure to set your mind on things that are above, not on things that are on the earth. They only serve as a distraction. Remember, prayer changes things. It's Pastor Steph signing off, and I want to thank my Due Time crew, the ladies, for always coming through big time. Oh, what a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining in the conversation and helping us keep that chat room alive and helping us do what we do. Please do not miss this opportunity to give God your life right now. Please do not miss this opportunity to strengthen that relationship with the Lord right now, because later is not promised to any of us. Until tomorrow, God spares, where it's Therapeutic Thursday. Until then, I love you.